Hi, everyone. I've got a special guest today. This is Paul. Say hi again,
Hello,
Paul.
everyone. Hello, everyone.
So I want to tell you about Paul. We met, 2 years ago at the World Series of Poker. But we started talking, and I remember we had like a conversation about Ivy, and then you'd mentioned that you used to be a lawyer, that you left your high-paying law firm. So give us a little bit of history about that.
Straight out of law school, I went to big firm type environment, one of the biggest firms in California, and the environment for me was something I could only make 2 years. I left voluntarily after 2 years and went out on my own and practiced on my own for about 8 years or so, and then called it quits at that point. So now it's poker.
One of the reasons I wanted you on stream is because I like your Twitter. Like you say things that I want to say.
But I enjoy being genuine. You know what I mean? I think I'm not afraid to speak my mind at this point, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
That'll jump into our first topic, which is the grudge match. The first tweet that we have, someone asked, I'd be interested to know what percentage of themselves Doug and Real Poke have respectively. And Doug and Real Kid Poker. And Daniel said 100% here. And I don't know for sure if Doug has 100% of himself, but someone asked him, hey, Doug, are you selling any action for the max? Would I absolutely love to buy some? And he said, haha, unfortunately, no, not going to be able to pass up
That's
on
sweet.
that sweet value, lol.
But yeah, I think with the egos at stake and with their poker site income and all that kind of thing, yeah, I'm not surprised that they're both willing to put up $1 million or more to fight this out. Like I'm real far from being a Daniel Negreanu fan. I mean, I do tip my hat to him on this whole thing. I mean, it's not a small amount of money that he could lose and have to go away in, having been slammed by the person that he despises. That's not an easy thing to do. We all have egos and stuff. So he's got a lot at stake, and that's going to be a pretty fascinating match, in my opinion.
Daniel has nothing to gain from this. So I'm shocked that he agreed, but I think he's playing it well that he's like the underdog. So then, worst case scenario, he loses, but he was always the underdog. Heads up isn't his format. And I think that's why he agreed to all these things like online, two tables, because he can always play that it's not my game, it's Doug's specialty. So now if he wins, it'll just be like crushing to Doug.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by the pre-match psychology. From the very beginning of this negotiation, I think Daniel has trolled him and irritated him, and I think it's all been intentional. I really think that Doug is the one with everything to lose in this match, and Daniel has everything to win.
Polk went on a rampage calling out all these people: Johnny Vibes, Alec Torelli, Charlie Carl, Luke Schwartz, Matt Berkey, Christian Soto, obviously Real Kid, Poker, and then Phil Galfond, and he just said someone nice.
Yeah, that was a nice touch. This stuff with Doug's Twitter rampage is, to me, just so over the top. I mean, like I don't know Johnny Vibes at all, but to call somebody out like that, and I was thinking, even as a business person, and a lot of people have tweeted about this too, like, what is he doing as the head of a currently operating business that, it was like insulting. It could be insulting to anybody who plays 2-5 and 5-10, and all the people who would
100%.
really love to be able to play 2-5 for 10 years or 12 years, like he made fun of them for. If it is there's no such thing as bad press type, run from the CEO of Upswing, then, maybe he knows what he's doing. But I just don't see, like, I think I said on Twitter at one point, you've managed to go from having 90% of us rooting for you to 90% of us rooting for Daniel, or at least being kind of ambivalent about, the general public that enjoys watching poker, this old discussion of, do they want to watch a nice guy sit there who's really good and, just runs people over, but is just a super nice guy, or do they want to see somebody who might fly off the handle like a Phil Hellmuth or somebody like that? And, you kind of see that with this grudge match, the way that it's so ugly. The whole thing is so ugly, and the way you can't undo, once you tweet stuff like that out, you can't undo it.
A lot of people just think it's funny and they love it. A lot of people are like, oh, good, the old Doug's back. And I'm just like, why is this necessary?
So great for poker.
Is it great for poker?
That's what they say. That's what his fanboys say, and I don't think it's good for poker at all, but I just have a different perspective, I guess.
Yeah, so that is my next question. Is the Galfond match being talked about as much as as the grudge match? A grudge match is just so much more interesting to watch than two guys that mutually respect each other playing good poker.
Tweeting nice things to each other.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's not really attention grabbing to say like, good game, sir, and you really played well today, and you're such a great guy, and it's such an honor to play against you, and let me go load another million to play against you, and that's worth following, and I certainly enjoy it, but it's not what's going to draw people to the game and get them to start playing and stuff.
It's unfortunate. Barry Greenstein put out this video this week, which had two of our favorite legends, Barry Greenstein and Phil Ivey, and they're chatting in a short 11-minute video. Barry said, people are always asking, hey, can't you get cheated if you play online? And both of them agreed that they thought it's actually safer than live poker. It's easier to get cheated live. And this kind of surprised me. I think when they're talking about getting cheated live, they're talking about private games, because I think it's a little bit more difficult to get cheated in a casino other than the Postle case. But what are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, I was surprised, when I heard that as well. And it's the Wild West. I mean, it's 2020, and whether it's online and us Americans, you guys are lucky up there, but us Americans have to, sort of cross our fingers and play on ACR or Bovada and hope that we're not getting cheated by other players or the sites. You've got that situation with online. I mean, that's the state of poker, and what's allowed in the United States is on a state-by-state basis, which is totally bizarre. And then you've got the state of live poker, where a state has ruled, at least at the lower court level, apparently again, that gambling debts cannot be enforced in California courts.
There's no law in California that protects.
Yeah, recovering for a gambling loss, basically. Yeah. It seems like a law that should be overturned just based on sort of common sense. There is legal gambling in the state, so how can you have legal gambling without a way to enforce disputes that arise? What I hope will happen down the line is that an important enough case will arise that it gets appealed at the appellate level. That's where the higher you go in the courts, that's where the law is made, all the way up to the Supreme Court, which ultimately is the ruler on what is the law. So
what would that case need to look like? Like, how we thought this was kind of slam dunk, but it's so hard to be slam dunk in poker. So what would need to happen for that law to get overturned?
That's a really good question. And I don't know that there would be much of a better situation than the one that we were just presented with. Facts that are slam dunk, and this was about as close, it seemed like, about as close as you're going to get. It's pretty hard to get people, other than actually having them on video, actually doing it. But, you've got all those videos that Polk and Joey Ingram did, and, several experts looked into it at depth and all came to the very same conclusion, which is that they're 100% sure that he cheated. And so it's, okay, well, we've got that, and they had not just an individual, they had a casino. So they had somebody with some money as in their pockets as a defendant. I mean, it would be hard to just sue somebody who's a 1-3-2-5 grinder, which, as I understand it, is what Postle was before this all happened. It's hard to sue somebody like that because they don't have money. And so you spend all this time and energy getting a judgment, and then it becomes very hard to effectuate the judgment. Veronica Brill's case wasn't appealed. Maybe he just didn't think they had a chance of it or anything, but
so they settled, or would that be the right word? They settle?
Well, some of the defendants settled.
Yes, most
Some of the
most of the
defendants.
set.
About 2/3, I think, like 60 of the 80, so 3/4 or whatever. Yeah. But, it was a terrible, terrible PR result for the remaining plaintiffs that didn't settle. So Veronica got left out to dry, sort of, from my perspective, on that situation. And then on top of it, a few weeks later, in comes this thing, which is, as a former lawyer, I just couldn't even believe it. And I felt kind of bad because I had messaged her and said, because she had said, I think I'm going to be sued for defamation. And I said, I'm not going to give you 100%, and I haven't practiced law in a long time, but I'd be pretty surprised if you get
Why
sued.
would you
And
be
then, like
surprised?
later, factual underlying evidence is overwhelming against Postle, who's the only plaintiff, and he's suing them for $600 million. So it just blows my mind in a case where what can he claim are the damages? I mean, he was really going to make $660 million playing poker apparently as a poker god if he wasn't called out by Veronica. I mean, he's named ESPN. He's named I think Matt Berkey and Doug Polk. I think aren't they co-defendants
Daniel
in this
Negreanu.
case? And Daniel Negreanu. They're all co-defendants in the Mike Postle defamation case. In fact, I messaged her and I said, "Oh, at least you have a lot of good company and you weren't sued only as the only one." But I was shocked. I think that, to the extent that it's a reputable law firm, which it seems, that's part of what shocked me. It would be very, very unusual for Mike Postle on his own to go to any lawyer and say, this is what happened to me and I want to sue all these people for defamation. And I want to be represented on contingency. Like, everybody thinks lawyers will just take whatever case comes their way. You have to be selective. So I'm going to be really, really interested, what comes of it from ESPN, from Daniel Negreanu, from these people that have some money and then like we were discussing earlier, Veronica raised, last I checked, was $25,000 for her defense. And she also got a commitment from Bill Perkins, who's, one of the heroes of the poker world, really. Just the fact that his name is attached to it, a guy who's wealthy enough to have a lot of money to throw around is willing to help her defend the case would be a serious alarm bell if I were one of the plaintiff's lawyers. What the good thing about being sued is you get to do discovery fairly early in the process.
Yeah, so tell me about that. Like, can we find out information about what was on his cell phone and all that stuff through the discovery process?
We, the public, probably won't. Usually there's some sort of either light to strong protective order over discovery. But depositions are really, really powerful tools, and there are definitely going to be in this case. I can't see allowing Mike Postle, or even being Mike Postle, and wanting to sit for 8, 16 hours or longer answering detailed questions under oath, by highly skilled lawyers. I don't know how he's going to prove the case. I don't know how he's going to prove damages, and I don't know how he's going to get away with not having to pay substantial attorney fees. The bottom line is, I don't think she's got much upside, but I do think she has a decent chance of eventually forcing, a payment of whatever attorney fees that she's accrued. Yeah, I'm looking forward to how I believe this is going to end, but I've been surprised
multiple times
recently.
Already, right?
Yeah. So we'll see.
Well, we're actually going to be talking about online poker. So basically, Germany is now going to be regulating online poker. It's been a gray area for all this time, and now it's becoming legal. So it's fully legal July 2021. October 15th, the new rules came into effect to prepare for legalization. And the new rules are 4 table max, no seat or table selection. There's a 1,000 max deposit a month, 1,000 euros max deposit.
Yeah.
So,
well, that does.
There won't be.
Wow.
I don't think there is many high stakes players living in Germany. Even though we think of like Germans as really good, they have really high taxes as is. So most of them have moved away to play. But yeah, that pretty much completely destroys any high stakes action.
Yeah.
The other thing, yeah, so they added a panic button, which automatically gives you a self-ban, which I think is kind of funny. And then, but this is one problem. I don't want to try to pronounce his German last name, but he's a reporter for, and he mentioned he can't even watch Four Tables. So he said he can't do his job if you can't even open up Four Tables to view it. Talk to you guys later. Thanks again, Paul, and we'll see you guys next week. Follow Paul on Twitter too, because he's funny.